And with us right now, we've got Anna Vocino. Anna, you're a comedian, voice actor, cookbook author of 2 books. You've got Eat Happy and Eat Happy Too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Glad to be here.
You know, but you actually do more than that. How many jobs do you wear? A lot of hats, my friend.
How many jobs do you have? I'm so old. I remember a little sketch comedy show called In Living Color, and they had this recurring sketch about people having so many jobs and like having 27 jobs. I feel like sometimes I have 27 jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal. I have worked in Hollywood for so long, and now I currently, I work as a comedian. My husband and I do a dual stand-up act about marriage, and well, we used to tour quite a bit, but now everything's shut down. I don't know how timely we're going to get with what's going on in the world as we're recording this, but maybe we can talk about that. But I have worked in Hollywood for so long, and it's just the nature of it is you can market yourself, you can get really good, you can go out and do open mics and get booked on shows, but ultimately you're kind of at the mercy of somebody saying yes to you. Mm-hmm. And in a way, we're all at the mercy of that. But once you kind of get things going, you're still kind of waiting for the phone to ring. Did I get that part? Are they going to hire me for this job? And then when you get the part, it's very lucrative for sure, but then you might not work for like a long time. And it's a for me, a disempowering place to be. And I realized very early on exactly that I need to build businesses. So I would do the model of if I earn money from Hollywood stuff, I would go buy a piece of real estate, or I would invest in the stock market. Like I would do that. And then eventually I started building up and becoming a content creator. And so I always had blogged about food. I love recipes. I love cooking. And I was diagnosed with celiac in 2002, way before it was cool. And
you're a trendsetter, Anna.
I'm a trendsetter.
I think it's because, here's this gal from Hollywood. She's got celiac. It's, so all of a sudden, all your groupies,
who was it?
They want to be just like you.
Elizabeth Hasselbeck, I think, was the first one to make it really cool because she was on The View, and diagnosed with celiac, and everyone's like, what's gluten-free? And then it became a trend, and everybody thought they would lose weight if they went gluten-free, which, by the way, is a myth. It's a total myth.
Right.
But so I kind of was like, I'm a person who turns her passions into ways to make money. And so when Vinnie Tordrich, who's my podcasting partner of the past 8 years, came to me and said, let's start a podcast about fitness. And I was like, I know nothing about fitness, but I know about food, and I'm a comedian. It wound up working out really well. And I just kept parlaying it into let's write a cookbook. Okay, well, let's write another cookbook. Okay, well, let's keep putting content out there and build the business that way, because frankly, I can be an old broad in Hollywood cooking recipes on camera, but you know how Hollywood feels about their old broads. I know, it's an interesting place to be. Anyway.
So when I think about, this process of, if you are an artist and you're performing and you're waiting for the phone to ring, like I see like 3 variables there. You've got the sheer number of exposures that you're doing to expose yourself.
Right. Your at-bats have to be really high.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then there is how masterful are you in your craft, like your raw talent. And then I think that third one is, aside from just numbers, how well are you selling yourself in that? And so if you were to say, okay, if I were to divvy up 100% of all of your focus, I would say, spend what percentage in which of those buckets? Well, how would you break that up?
Well, I guess that would depend on an age thing. And I would actually add a 4th bucket, which is availability. Sometimes you just get jobs because you're available. For example, about 5 or 6 Saturdays ago, I was driving home from a book signing in San Diego, and I was exhausted. And my agent, I'm supposed to go home, take a 15-minute power nap, get up, make some food real fast, and take it over to my friend's house, who I've canceled on dinner plans 3 times, so I cannot miss this dinner. It's one of those where you're like, I'm gonna ruin the friendship if I don't show up this time. And as I'm about to walk out the door, my New York agent calls me. So it's about 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. My New York agent calls me and says, SNL's looking for a fierce British voiceover. Are you in front of the mic? Can you just read And I said, sure. And so I told my husband, who's very used to this, by the way, stop the car. I got to read, and then I'll bring my mic with me. And so I read from here on my fancy mic back there. Yeah. I read from here, sent it in. And I was like, you know, this is in the pocket of voiceover that I do. However, It's Saturday Night Live. I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is happening? So, but I brought the mic just in case. And as we were driving to Encino, my agent calls and goes, okay, I need all your paperwork, because it's a union job. They have to have your paperwork and have you cleared. That we need all your paperwork and we need this. And then the moment you walk into your friend's house, plug in that microphone, you're going to record it. They're going to call and direct you, and it's going to go on the air in a half an hour. So it's like, again, so that's why I say the fourth bucket is availability, because sometimes you just get a job because you're the one who happens to be in front of the mic. You're the one, if you make yourself available to work, you might get the job over somebody else. Listen, talent is important. So here's how I would answer your question on which one to focus. When you're younger, make yourself as good as you can in whatever it is that you're trying to sell yourself at. You don't have to be an artist. I feel like that lesson applies. If you're creating content, if you are, if you're writing something, if you're, whatever, if you're getting good at sales, if you're building your business, get really, really good at it. And when you're young, look around and absorb as much as you can from everybody. Learn from them and figure out what they're doing wrong and you do it right. Like really observe, really have those observation skills going, and then keep taking action and keep failing. Honestly, I know it's so trite. We keep hearing that, but you have to fail a million times. And when somebody tells me, oh, I got fired from that, or, oh, they dropped my podcast, or I'm always like, great, good. That's making you better. It's making you stronger, and you can move on to the next thing. Yeah. So I for what you should focus on is get really good, undeniably great, so that people have to say yes to you.
You bring up a couple of like how we learn, right? So there's learn knowledge, you just learn from, I'm listening to a podcast and it says do this.
And I love doing that. That's my favorite way to fill my time.
Yeah. And then activity knowledge, like, okay, well, let me just test this and see how it goes. Then modeling knowledge, you look at like, well, okay, what's Anna done? And I'm going to follow and do what she did. And hopefully if I do what she do, I should get similar results. Makes sense. And then teaching knowledge, of course, when now the student becomes a teacher and you internalize it in a way that is a lot more impactful. So Anna, obviously, I think you were very smart early on to diversify. And I think particularly, as we have been going through and as of when we're recording this, like we just kind of started the lockdown, not lockdown, in terms of
it's like day 3, 4. Yeah.
So there are a lot of industries that are impacted in a very, very big way. And if you have everything and you bet it all on black, and you're in an industry that got disrupted because of the pandemic, it sucks. I know it sucks. And I think that that's one thing. Again, I think because you're diversified, and it doesn't mean that you are a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. I mean, you really have some great systems going in multiple places.
Yes.
And so listen, if Hollywood shut down for a little while, that's okay.
Which, by the way,
stuff to do.
Which, by the way, it is. I mean, I'm used to working from home for voiceover, so that's great. Comedy's completely shut down. We will not be performing. We've had to cancel tons of shows. We're supposed to do this awesome show in New York that we are producing. My husband and I are producing it and performing in with Sunday Night Sex Ed with Dr. Drew. It was going to be super fun. We were so looking forward to it. And then boom, stuff just is getting yanked. I know everybody out there listening has had sporting events or concerts or something fun they were looking forward to that's getting canceled, and that's a bummer. But you know what I did? I just logged into Instagram yesterday and somebody forwarded me Chris Martin doing a half-hour Instagram live and performing his stuff, and this is what's going to be happening more and more. So I would tell people if you're at the least bit creative, or you have some information you want to share, or doing like what Josh and I are doing, we're remotely working and podcasting, get on there and start getting used to it and start getting practice and start putting your face out there. If you have stuff that you want to share, now's the time, because people are at home watching and they need content and they need entertainment. And I will say this too, we keep hearing all these stories of like, well, Shakespeare wrote King Lear when he was in quarantine, and all these like beautiful pieces of art and literature came out of medical quarantines. They didn't have the internet, okay? They weren't at home like surfing, looking at stuff. So I will tell everybody this. I personally yesterday realized this was happening. Oh, it's way too easy to go down the internet rabbit hole and not actually produce or make anything.
Oh yeah.
And so I said, I have to do 2 things a day. I have to make progress on 2 things a day. So yesterday we have a television project that we're pitching that we had to put some final touches on a sizzle. So I did that. And then I did a 40-minute cooking video. So I was like, okay, I did my 2 things. So I have to like get off the internet, stop reading all the terrible news about how everybody's dying, and just create 2 things a day. That's a
and it's interesting. I was just thinking about this, you know, when you have something disruptive like this, you know, Savings Angel, my last company, we made millions of dollars because of the economic downturn,
right? Because
we provided a solution to help people save money, and everybody at the time was really interested in saving money. And so I think another thing to ponder over is, how can I use this event to help people in a way, but yet I can absolutely thrive and flourish through helping people recover? And guess what? I mean, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to need a lot of help. And so what is it that we can do? In your case, you know, maybe it is, you know, entertainment in a new way. And I think that, Anna, and I'd love your perspective on this. How do you see this event, you know, where we've all kind of, you know, social distancing and all that sort of thing? I see this as something that is going to, I think we're going to learn a lot of lessons from this. And I think a lot of people are going to look at their business and say, okay, you know, how can I virtualize aspects of what I do? But you know, I think you've pointed out a couple of things. But what other lessons do you think that business owners in particular will learn as a result of going through this experience?
I think all of us are doing a bit of self-reflection. And yes, I agree. This is going to be a 9/11 level of disruption and game changer for how we proceed as a society. And obviously we want the economic stuff to get back and flowing again. But I think that I actually ultimately think we're going to wind up improving on stuff, because very, very early on, I've been working remotely, and I think that the more that we can figure out how to work remotely and also be, you know, the whole thing with remember the California gold mine, it wasn't the people who made the money actually getting the gold, it's people selling the pickaxes and the supplies and the shovels and the pans, etc. And so I think if you get inspired to ideas of how to make people work remotely, I have had an evil, overarching goal, and I say evil like I'm an evil cartoon villain. I have wanted to get every American back in their kitchen to make real food. That's been a goal of mine, and I feel like in a way I've accomplished that. Not because I've had anything to do with the lockdown or the pandemic, but now I have this opportunity where every American is in the kitchen. So it would be foolish for me not to be for just consistently every day doing cooking videos, telling people, okay, you have to be here. You bought a bunch of food. Now what do you do with it? Most of my audience are people who are coming from the standard American diet and processed foods and pick up and take out to now they want to cook at home and they've never boiled water before.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm used to this. I got this. I'm ready. So, but you got to keep thinking about opportunities like that. Okay, well, how can we put this into that? Because it really sucks if you're in hospitality or restaurant and now you've got to do something else. I totally get it. It's a crappy place to be right now. It will pass. I know it will pass.
Anna, what gave you the audacity to think that you could start a cookbook? So we have enough cookbooks, right?
Plenty of cookbooks. You know what? It was my friend Vinny Tordrich, who I podcast with, who's the one who talked me into it because I didn't understand. Here's what happened. I was celiac and I was making all of these delicious gluten-free treats, you know, red velvet cake and key lime tart and whoopie pies and all these yummy things. And then I just started putting on weight. And at the time I was still working a lot on camera. And I was like, well, crap. What am I
Not good for job security.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I met my friend Vinny, and I was on a show that had been canceled a couple years before, and I went into a pretty dark depression about that show. And I think that actually really shaped me. No, it's okay, because it shaped me to go, I never want to feel that disempowered again. Where it's like in Hollywood, you could have a beautiful, wonderful thing, and it just, for whatever reason, they're like, no, like a new president comes in, he's like, no, not that, or like it's so. You're just can be dismissed so easily, and it's a very disempowering feeling, and I did not like that. And so Vinny calls me and said, let's podcast, and he tells me, you need to cut out the sugars and the grains. I was like, no, I have already cut out gluten. I am not cutting out all the other sugars and grains. That's where my entire comfort is. And then he was right, and I did it, and I lost weight, and I started turning all my recipes into NSNG, what he calls no sugars, no grains. That's his trademark. And he told me, he's like, you need to assemble these into a cookbook. And I was like, why? You can literally punch into Google anything that's in your fridge and get 2 million recipes.
Yeah, right.
Why do I need to do a cookbook? And he said, just wrap it up nicely with a bow, and they will buy it. And they have. And then I insanely made a second one, and it was just as hard as the first one, although I had that sophomoric expectation of it not being. It certainly was. And then, but also too, I had to learn food photography, because I found out it was going to cost about $50,000 to photograph the recipes. And so that was another thing. I was like, well, pull myself up by my bootstraps and learn how to do food photography. And I did it.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
Now I love food photography. And now I have to turn down offers to go shoot people's food spreads, because I'm like, nah, I'm not interested in that.
So obviously these books are available on Amazon. Do you have a website in support of Eat Happy and Eat Happy Too?
Yes. My website, annavocino.com or eathappycookbook.com has all the information. But yeah, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, indiebound.org. You can go enter your zip code and find out the local bookshop near you where you can order it from or get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the socials. Instagram and Facebook tend to be where I spend most of my time, because I can do live video and interact with folks.
Yeah, Anna. So Anna's website is Anna Vocino, ANNAVOCINO.com. And then that'll have everything that we're talking about with Anna.
Yes.
Anna, obviously one thing that has been a kind of a fantasy of mine, and I know the work and effort that it takes, since I've just not been able to do it, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen for me if I really want it that badly, but doing voice acting. And I've got a good friend of mine, Tim Page, that has done. Yeah, he's great. Oh yeah, he's done some great work. Did you see the video that he posted singing Hamilton?
No.
Oh, I think he's just so talented.
He is very talented. Yes.
Yeah. So how did you start that? And is that something that someone who, like me, has a fantasy of doing it? Is that something you can do part-time? Here's
the thing with voiceover, and I'm going to say it with a couple of caveats.
Yeah.
I'm going to say anybody who wants to do it can do it, and I am proof of that. It's nothing so special about my voice that it's like, oh, she's got that Demi Moore thing. Like, I mean, I can on if I need to. I can do many voices, but anyone can do it, but most people won't put the work in.
Yeah.
So the way I got started was, first of all, I was working in my home market in Atlanta already as an actor, and I just wanted to do it. So I took a class, and they said you could be good at it. And that was just sometimes what you need to hear is you need to hear somebody tell you could actually do this, for you to open up your belief system, which, by the way, we could do another episode on beliefs, because what had to happen in order for me to get to the level where I am was crack open all those negative beliefs that said I couldn't. And I would systematically crack them open, then notice there would be a jump and a jump and a jump in my bookings and my revenue, in my connections and everything. So I researched all the coaches, and then I narrowed it down to Nancy Wolfson. She's at braintracksaudio.com. She's the best. She was the best for me. You have to find the best person for you, because it is a people interacting thing. And she produced my first demo, and I got with my first agent. And this all is skipping like a bunch of steps, and at the time I had a small child. She's all grown up and in college now, but I was reading to my child constantly, and there's all this confluence of events that kind of made it the right fit. So, but I think people, and I'm not saying you at all, because I am asked on a daily basis multiple times, hey, how do I get into voiceover?
Yeah.
And I always punt them over to Nancy, because I'm like, she's the one. She'll do it all for you. But I feel like a lot of people ask this question and they want to hear it's easy, and it's not easy.
Right.
And it's in the sense of it might be easy if you have a natural affinity for it. That'll take away like some of the hardship of getting your talent up to speed. But it's just constant selling yourself and getting the agent. Once you get agents, that makes it a lot easier, because agents are still very much the gatekeepers of jobs. However, that being said, I mean, of the more high profile jobs, that being said, you could market yourself to, say, a medical device company and say, hey, I'm great at medical narrations. I'm I'm happy to narrate stuff for you. You can market yourself to your local television station, say, hey, I would love to do your imaging stuff, your promos, whatever. You could market there are a lot of ways that you can market yourself. And in fact, I know a lot of voice actors who don't have agents and are not in the union and are making $300,000, $400,000 working from home, narrating things like that. So you can do it. You just got to get in there and start, making these forward steps and taking the actions. And most people, when I tell them what they need to do, they won't even go to Nancy's website and listen to a demo. And I'm like, well, then it has to be coming from within you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it has to be like, you have to be driven to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you've had some great jobs. Do you mind kind of rattling off some of your notable
I'm bad at rattling off, because
I've got it right here if you want me to rattle off.
Yeah,
so
you can rattle off.
Yeah, so you've done a lot of Jimmy Kimmel, The Office. So you've worked McDonald's, Disney, AT&T, everybody basically. I think it would be easier for me to say who you haven't yet done voice work for. MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch. So when
that was my first animation job, and that was in 2006, and I voice matched Kirsten Dunst. I don't know how to say her name.
Sure.
And Celebrity Deathmatch was that show where they would just spoof all the celebrities, so you didn't have to like be super exact, Yeah. And but that opened up for me that I could do voice matching, which I've done a lot of. You can get, in fact, there's a lot of credits not listed there. Like I voice matched Marissa Tomei in Crazy Stupid Love, and Kate Winslet in Divergent, and Maria Bello in Fifth Wave. I can't remember what that movie was. Like a ton of movies where you can get a contract on the movie, and they can't get the celebrity in to say loop the movie. They're changing. It's called ADR, additional dialogue recording.
Oh.
And they want to like have. A perfect example of ADR is when you're on the airplane and you're watching the movie and you hear a voice that's similar to theirs, and you hear them say like fire pants instead of cussing or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Like,
the Samuel L. Jackson ones are the best.
Yeah, snakes on a fire pants plane. You're like, wait, what? Did he say? Okay. That's a perfect example of ADR, and they would get somebody who sounds like the actor to come in and do that. So that's like a thing. And of course, you can't really talk about it. It's not like, hey, guess what? I did this thing. It's like, no one cares, but it's a good way to make money and get residual income. Yeah.
Well, Anna Vocino, you are a delight. Your website is annavocino.com. And so you are actively producing podcasts. Is that or you're part of a podcast?
Yes, I do the Fitness Confidential podcast with Vinnie Tortorich. And of course, my cookbooks, Eat Happy and Eat Happy Too, are low carb. Low carb's having quite a moment right now. We're ahead of the curve on that one, that's for sure. But no, it's real food recipes. It's how I cook and eat at home. I do cooking videos all the time. I've got them on YouTube. I do Facebook Live videos. I have a Facebook group with about 8,000 people in it, and who are all there talking about, because low carb people are like trying to figure this out, And I would say this, to keep your immune system up, it would be really smart to cut out the sugars and the grains and cut out the processed foods. Yeah. I'll need a little boot right about now.
No doubt about it. Anna Vocino, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Josh.